Welcome. This is AOP, and in this module, we are going to be talking about the biggest part of your branding, which refers to the content that you create for your timeline. This is going to be all about magnetic content, posting from a results oriented perspective. Too often, you'll see creators put out content for the timeline, and there's no real rhyme or reason behind anything that they're doing. Our goal today is to arm you with the tools so that when you create content, not only are you going to come at it from a higher level of awareness, but we want you to be able to anticipate the results that you are going to bring for yourself and for your audience. All right, so what do you mean by this magnetic content? Well, let me break it down for you like this. Good content gets a reaction. Good content creators get reactions, but they're not necessarily sure about the results that they're going to bring, but people do engage with their posts. Bad content creators, well, on the other hand, they don't get any reaction. They don't get any engagement. Meanwhile, there is a small percentage of great content creators that are out there like a wizard with a wand getting the exact reactions that they want even before they post. Now, to become a better content creator, you need to ask yourself one thing. What's the whole point of you creating this content? Why are you spending this energy to write? People will come to me and they'll ask me, should I post a platitude? Should I post a list? Should I post a meme? How often should I be doing long form content? And I say to them, what kind of reaction are you looking for? What kind of results do you want? Once you understand that the results, the content is going to it's going to create itself. All right. So think about everything from a reverse engineering standpoint. Well, good news, everyone. The X algorithm rewards magnetic content. There's really two ways the algorithm is going to reward you. Either you are posting for some kind of audience reaction in the form of a like, a retweet, a comment, a bookmark, a profile visit. All of that is a signal to the algorithm to share your post with the world. The other way that you can think of it is from an audience attention perspective. And this is from a time spent. The more time somebody spends on your post, the more the algorithm recognizes it, and it is spread out to the X consciousness that is out there. All of this leads to more impressions. All of this leads to people seeing your profile. And all of this leads to you magnetically pulling in your following. All right, let's talk about the first way to post. And this is the most common form of posting that is out there. This is posting for likes, and this is simply described as tweeting what is inside of someone's head. The way that you do this is by coming at everything from a relatable perspective, because when somebody nods their head in agreement, they are going to react by pressing the like button. Here's a couple tweets that are simple, straightforward posts. By age 30, you should be smart enough to realize that a lack of consistency hurts you more than a lack of talent. That is going to end result in more likes. And then we have a couple platitude type posts. Always be prepared to leave your employer. And a meme with a simple idea behind it with images that relate to the text. All of this gets people nodding their head in agreement, which leads to likes, which leads to awareness to your funnel. All right, let's talk about tweeting for retweets. This is my favorite form of content creation. When somebody hits the retweet button, they are really engaged with what you are doing. So there's two ways to post for retweets. The first is for regular retweets, and the second is for quote tweets. And they both inspire different kind of results that are out there. I call retweets from a magnet effect. And what I mean by this is a regular retweet gets retweeted typically because it is inspiring somebody, or there's an awe-inspiring story there. They love it so much. I call it the magnet effect. Think of it like this. When you have a refrigerator and people are putting up all of this content on the fridge because they want to share it with everybody who walks through their house and they want to refer to it later. So this is a type of post like this from Joe Cassandra. Me at 28, terrible job, couldn't afford a $500 bill, one kid and wife struggling. Me now, awesome, awesome, awesome. 5 years can change a lot. Don't give up. Somebody is going to retweet that because they are so inspired by this and they want to refer to it. It's almost like a form of bookmarking. In the future, they want to refer to this because it's going to get them through the day. It's going to make them feel good and they want to read this. That is why people typically retweet. Quote tweets, on the other hand, use a different angle, and they are polarizing content. Specifically, either going from a position of anger, somebody sees this and they get upset. People glued to the news People glued to the news to stay informed seem to be the most out of touch with reality. Oh my gosh, I am going to give Jack Bly a piece of my mind. And here's one that uses power from a virtue signaling perspective. By age 40, you should be X 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. People are going to quote tweet this because they are going to go, oh, I knew all of this by age 30. Or they're coming at it from an anger perspective where this is how dare you tell me what to do? You don't need this plan. Live your life the way that you want. So from a quote tweet perspective, you're kind of channeling this anger and type of power virtue signaling, while you're a retweet perspective, the content is looking for inspiration and awe. So think of that and think about all of the types of people that you're going to be attracting to your account. Is this what you want to create? Be aware of the type of content that you write. So posting for comments. I am a big fan of posting for comments. I think it's the most underrated approach on this platform. And if I were to give you one tip when it comes to content creation, I would say start asking more questions. You have this huge audience. Ultimately, your goal is to turn it into a gigantic forum where people discuss their ideas, and the best way to get the discussion going is to ask questions. I like to think of it as a form of market research, in fact. So here's a great question from Dividend Hero. This is a question that relates to his life, and it's him simply asking, my wife and I are looking to buy a home. What advice do you have? Such a welcoming question. This is one from Steve, and this is like a simple question technique. The less friction that you ask in your question. So one thing people will do is they'll try to ask a question that's too complicated, too hard to answer. That's going to not get people to engage with this. But this is a simple question from Steve. In one word, what prevents most people from building wealth? That's easy to answer, and that's going to get a lot of content. Then here's one from Culture Critic that fits so nicely into his niche. What is the one work from antiquity that everyone must read? Well, everybody's going to want to share that book with Culture Critic because that's what he talks about all of the time. So one of the best things that you can do is read through your content, because this is going to inspire your future comments or content itself, because you're going to be able to understand what your audience is interested in. All right. So we talked about in our course, Create, the reason why someone follows you matters. Take these things in mind. Your content attracts the audience that you want. And at the same time, you are creating your audience. You're shaping their mind. You are influencing their ideas and thoughts. Treat this seriously. I included this form in the PDF version of Create, and these are the types of tweets and the types of followers that they bring in. And most of the tweets that we've talked about right now, they bring in kind of they're kind of on the left-hand side. Polarizing content will bring in followers who are hardcore about the ideas that you write. There is some value there, and you're kind of lining up people and rah-rahing them up. Polarizing content can bring in higher quality followers, but a lot of the times if you're just going to post off like one-liners, questions, memes, I'm not saying they're not valuable. They will bring in followers, they will bring in engagement, but the type of people that are going to be following you, they're not going to be the warmest type of people. So at some point, you're going to want to open up with your audience, tell your story, tell them who you are. Posts to the right have a higher level of authenticity, and that's the best way to build your audience. So this is kind of a thinking from a time perspective now. The more time people spend on your timeline, not only is it good for the algorithm, but it's good for your personal brand as well, because people get to know who you are the longer that they hang out with you. And this is done through long form content. So the benefits of writing long form. Again, we said the X algorithm rewards time spent on posts. They also they do everything. They're like a magic bullet. They bring in more profile clicks that lead to a higher follower growth count. They connect with readers in a deeper meaning, which leads to more authenticity from you, which opens up opportunities to sell in the future because they expand your authority on particular subjects. It's like growth, authenticity, and authority all combined into one, and it's the easiest way to stand out. These are results that I have seen from long form content, and I have seen many people, this is cliche sounding, but I have seen I'm going to say this: one great long form piece of content or a thread can change your account forever. I've seen people land 6-figure jobs from it. I've seen people get invited to some of the biggest podcasts that are out there on the internet because of a well placed thread. It can change your account's trajectory. It can even change your life. Let's start with the most important part of the thread, which is the hook. The hook has one goal. It's to get people to stop and read. So I've attached some of the best scroll stopping threads and long form posts that I have seen with the goal of grabbing people's attention, because everything you do when it comes to long form content, grab attention and keep people reading. Here are posts that do that extremely well. Here's Tyler Taught. My daughter is extremely privileged. Now, what this is the exact opposite. You know, people are out there saying, "Oh, you're not supposed to be privileged," and here he is being proud of it. This stops the scroll, and this also will lead to a high level of engagement, not just quote tweets, likes. People are going to nod their head in agreement, but people are also going to give him a piece of their mind with a lot of quote tweets as well. And then you're going to take a look at this. This is really well done. This is a video long form content post. There's a video right here. There is a link to this directly if you find this in the Create 24/7 PDF. It's very clever. If you're a dad and this video doesn't get you in the feels, check your pulse. So immediately you're being issued a command, right? First of all, now you need to watch the video to figure out what's going on, and then you know already it's priming you that you're gonna have an emotional reaction to this video. So for you to check your pulse, you got to watch this video. It's extremely scroll stopping hook right here, and then we see a couple of regular threads. These are getting people here. So these are very clever. Both of these use this same technique. They insert one piece of a list that gets people having to keep reading. So here's every piece of fitness I could come up with after 6 years in the gym. Stop drinking alcohol. You read this and immediately you have a reaction to it. Either you're someone, since alcohol is an addictive, and I know, by the way, Ask the Giver, Coach Kev, this is somebody who does not drink alcohol. So he's authentically posting this, and people are going to have a reaction to this. Yes, giving up alcohol was one of the best things I ever did in my life. And then you're going to have many quote tweets saying, alcohol, I can't give that up. So this is something that is using it's a scroll stopper. It's grabbing your attention and it's forcing people to keep reading, because now they're like, oh, what else do I need to see here? So both of these threads do that really well. Then we have the benefit-led hook. I think this is one of the best ways to write long form. People need to understand why. Why am I reading this post? And if you start off with what they're going to get, then they're more likely to read the entire thing to understand the benefit. So here's a few threads that do that well. 57 sentences that will make you a better husband and father today. I want to read this. If I'm following Save Your Sons, I'm interested in being a better father, and this is going to be the sauce that's going to get me there. Jack Bly has one. If you sleep less than 8 hours, read this. Wow, there are so many people out there who are sleeping less than 8 hours, and they want to keep reading. Richard Huntsman has one here. Belly fat is a sign that your health is wrecked. This is a high engagement idea. This especially works when you know that there is a certain idea that is inside of your niche that stands out from the rest. This is being a better father, sleeping less than 8 hours from a health coach, belly fat from someone who teach you how to lose fat. And then here's Save Your Sons again, conversation starters with your kids. These are all high engagement idea benefits and ideas tied together that people are going to read and say, I want to learn X, Y, Z. Here's Save Your Sons. Save this post. This is really clever. Save this post and never run out of conversation starters with your kids. And then there's also bookmark this post in the image. This one has tons of bookmarks in it because he's priming people already. Get this in the bookmark. It's getting that reaction from the audience, and then they're going to want to keep reading and reading it and reading, because then they want to, and they're going to refer to this as well, right? This is content that people come back to in the future. So he knows this is something that people want to learn more about. He puts that benefit in the headline, and then he primes people to bookmark it and refer to it again in the future. Another popular way to write long form content is to show some kind of blueprint, a step-by-step procedure that helps you ultimately build authority with your audience. So one thing that I like to do is say, hey, this is what I did. This was the result that I got. If I had to do it again, this is a blueprint. This is exactly what I would do. Here's another thread that does this well. Low testosterone is the true pandemic. So this is a health coach that knows that low testosterone is an issue. Here are 20 ways to optimize your testosterone health. And what happens here, again, these get shared with their audience. These are bookmarked. They have the magnetic effect, and they also establish authority. This is a different way to do it as well. I really enjoyed this post by Tyler Tott. 18, college, partying, lost God. That's a scroll stopper. 20, poker. 24, married. 27, internet poker banned. Went from 25K a year to zero overnight. 27, divorced, depressed, alcohol, and pills. And then the show more is strategically placed right here because you're left on a cliff right here. This is a blueprint. This is a step-by-step of his life that you're going to learn from. But you've got to click that show more button to see what happens and how Tyler overcomes this position here. So let's get into the body part. We just talked about the hooks. And really, there's two ways to go about writing the body. Either you're going to write a listicle post or a story-based post. Now, I will say this. Listicle posts are great for people who are just starting out. They almost write themselves. And, you basically pick an idea, 20 ways to improve your testosterone, point 1, 2, 20 ways. And you can write this in long form as well. They're both great ways to do it. I will say this, deciding on whichever way that you go, you want to always lead with your highest engaging point as number one. And we referred to this in the scroll stopping parts as well. So let's take a look at Alex. This is how to eliminate your political opponent. Here are 20 classic tricks. Arrest and prosecute them. And it's got this cool looking picture of Napoleon right there. Man, arrest and prosecute, that sounds so cool. I just want to keep reading. When you're writing these listicle type posts, and if it's in thread form, make sure each thread, each bullet point can stand on its own as its own post, right? And so sometimes I'll see these listicle posts and these ideas aren't really fleshed out. Give yourself an opportunity to flesh out each part of your thread. Pay attention to which ideas pop. And what you're going to do is you can see here, right here, this was number 3 in a listicle post that I posted. And notice that this one did much better than the previous post. This is one that is now telling me my audience wants to learn more about this concept of exploit 9 to 5. I can take these listicle posts and I can turn them into original content for my timeline, make a meme out of it, make a list out of it, make something out of it, or maybe even host a spaces. But regardless, you need to pay attention to what part of your posts pop. And then number 4, end strong. Maybe end with your second highest engaging idea at the end. Let's kick it over to storytelling posts. This is also talked about on page 40 of Create with an example of a story type thread with all of the acts and all of the elements that you need to have a great story-based post from Get Paid Writing. So Get Paid Writing talks about always having some kind of real stake involved. I would suggest to you, if you're listening, to write some kind of story-based post talking about your story, who you are, the transformations that you've made in life, why you created this account, who made you the person that you are today. There is a great story. If you watch some of these, Marvel movies or, any of these, there's Batman Begins. It's a great movie, but they all have a story of transformation about who made them who they are. And the best ones and the best movies and the best stories, they all have these elements involved in it. One, they have a real stake. The more risk that's involved, the more interesting the story behind the superhero or you, the content creator. Number 2 is everybody has to be a real person. The more real person that you are, the more believable the story is. People relate to believable characters. 3, the experiences need to be something that people go through commonly, right? But you have overcome that because you are going to make the reader feel from this transformation. And 4 is the real change itself. Focus on the transformation that you've made. How did you turn into the person that you are. Focus in on that because that is going to inspire people. It's going to make you more authentic to your audience, and it's going to bring a lot of authenticity to your timeline. People are going to know who you really are. All right, so those are the types of bodies that are out there in all forms of long form content. And the last part, which is optional, is to have some kind of call to action in your post. You've given all of this value. You've told your story. This is your chance to ask for something in return. You could either remind people to give yourself a retweet. You could say, hey, if you enjoyed this thread, give the first post a retweet. You can remind people to bookmark, like Save Your Sons did as well. You can CTA to some kind of newsletter that you have out there, or you can call to action to a product or DM them, even posting the private message link in the tweet directly, and pick up clients as well. If you're writing a piece of thread, you can just add this to the last post. But if you're writing a long form, what you can do is just add another post after the long form content. Either way, what you need to do is you need to ask your audience graciously. You always want to be the good guy out there on the timeline, because the type of posts that you create for your timeline, they're going to attract the right kinds of people. All right, I appreciate you listening to this module. We are going to shift gears. And after you start attracting the right kinds of people, it's time to start building your network. Your network is your net worth, and that is going to be the focus of the next module. Stay tuned.